Good afternoon. Hello and welcome. My name's Seth. If you don't know me, I found a yew tree and I started making sticks. And from making sticks, I started making bows, and then I started making better bows. Right, look, sticks you can find on eBay if you want to come find my shop in Sweet Chariot, England. And the bows as well. Not this one though, this is the first one I made, so it's not as refined as it could be. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is one we're making now, it's probably the one you come to see. This is what I call my, it's a Japanese longbow. It's also an Yumi design. Not strictly, because it's not a composite longbow, it's a selfbow made from yew. And that is what makes it also known as a Maruki. Now, with this design, well, I've just learned all that information because at this point in design, you're figuring out exactly what the bow is going to feel like, exactly how it's going to behave. Just like with me other bows, that takes understanding the history of the thing. So this is probably this is my first bow, very primitive, very simple. Probably quite reminiscent of the first bows that we made. It's a good place to start. Bows have been with us for a long time, and at first they were just used for hunting game, feeding yourself. But then we started warring with each other, and they became things that you'd go to war with. So at first, you'd only need enough power to put an arrow in an animal and put it down. I guess at that point we could talk about accuracy as well. How this sort of feeds into modern bows, modern target bows, modern hunting bows. They're optimized for accuracy. Whereas a war bow is optimized for power. I sort of learned that at this point with this one because it's short and it's cut out like a hunting bow is supposed to be. And because I wasn't quite as good at making bows when I made this one, it's powered a little bit more like a war bow. Let's see if I can demonstrate that. So you're going to try and shoot this sort of Olympic hunting style, say Olympic / hunting style, you're going to struggle. Always a very heavy draw, so you just shoot it very snappy, maybe not even anchor, shoot it like a war bow. Let's see if I can do that for you. Well, I noticed with this one when I was developing it, is it ruined my shoulder. And there were loads of knots in my shoulder. And I had to get a muscle gun in there and work them all out. A trapped nerve. It was horrible. Couldn't lift my shoulder up. So that's sort of what motivated me to start looking into the very slight nuances in the bows. And what is the difference between a war bow and a hunting bow and a field bow, a target bow, if you will. And that's how we ended up. Well, at the same time as learning yew itself. And you see with these, I mean the piece of wood that I was able to get from the yew tree, and this didn't come from the Japanese or the Pacific yew tree that I found. This one did. This one was, I believe, common yew. But the stave that I was able to get from it was not as wide as this one. So I can do a flat bow with this one. It could be this one. So that's sort of one way that yew defines the designs you make. But being sort of a less stout branch, this one was good to make a target bow from, and what I mean by that is it's not optimized for speed. It's optimized for accuracy. You have the ability to hold it nice and steady, take your aim, and fire very comfortably. Let's do that again. That was nice. A slightly dodgy arrow here. The arrow playing up in the flight there. Yeah, it's not the fastest bow, it's not recurved, it's not overly powerful. It doesn't need to be. It's not a hunting bow. Whereas this one has just a little bit more power in there. So it's not optimized for comfort and necessarily accuracy. But it is optimized for speed. Another thing we can look at here, excuse me, everything about this bow is more refined than this one. The knocks, the tips, the limbs, the handle, the rest, everything about it is optimized for accuracy. including the choice of arrow material. Aluminium's it's light, doesn't bend much, doesn't spine, you haven't got to take strange flight into account as you do with traditional bows. You see that? Just a little bit quicker, so anchors in a similar sort of way. It didn't hold it quite as much, it's not quite as comfy to hold. I could make it comfier to hold at full draw, but I don't need to. I want it to be a bit punchier, a bit more like a hunting bow. I guess this is a good time to start talking about the Maruki and its relation to the Yumi. So firstly, I don't know much about Kyudo, Japanese longbows, archery in general really. But yeah, let's start with Japanese archery. We'll talk about Kyudo in a minute, but Japanese archery went the same way as archery across the world did. First they used it for hunting, then they used it for war. So you had the evolution to make it a good hunting machine. And then once it became a weapon of war, you'd have the evolution to make it a good war machine, i.e. firing a heavier arrow, higher poundage, cheap and quicker and easier to make, I imagine would have been a consideration as well, exactly with the English longbow. And then when firearms became the new weapon of war, this all sort of became obsolete. So I guess with the Maruki here, you have the example of the early Japanese hunting bow and war bow. And then firearms came along, and just like with European archery, it became much more of just a sport. You still use rifles and firearms for hunting instead of archery. So archery became just a pursuit, just a leisure pursuit. But with now so we'll talk about the Japanese longbow specifically. This is where Kyudo arose, which is the martial arts surrounding the ritual side of the bow. Very much about how you shoot the bow compared to hunting or how you deliver an arrow, which arrow you deliver. And it's all about the motions, sort of the ritual, spiritual pursuit around the spiritual pursuit around the ritual of shooting the bow. So from my research, for a long time you're not going to hit the target. It takes very long to get accurate with one of these because they're not optimized for accuracy. I heard it said that if you're looking for a bow to be accurate with, you use an asymmetrical design. They beat the asymmetrical design. They beat the asymmetrical design hands down. So why would you have it like this? I think the first reason is the design came from a branch that just grows like this. They grow thick at the bottom, wider narrow at the top, so they tiller themselves naturally that way. The tree has spread the weight across the branch, which makes it easier to make. You haven't got to select a very specific piece of wood and then even them out like you would a symmetrical bow. You could cut a branch and have it shooting within the day. Actually, maybe not. Well, then again, anyone made a hazel bow? I think you can make them from green branches. So remember, this design is prehistoric. I mean, they haven't got time. They haven't really got time to evolve the craft. You need a bow quickly. So think green hazel shoot, green birch shoot, something like that. Very bendy, just off the bat, as a shoot. That's where I think this design came from, and held on to as well, because you can use a longbow on a horse, but you would like to think that this would make it easier to move around if you were riding a horse, let's say. But yes, back to Kyudo, because Kyudo isn't archery as such. It's all about the way you draw the bow, all about the ritual of firing the arrow. So imagining a Yumi, which is the bow that you would use for Kyudo, is designed to hold at full draw. Every stage of Kyudo is very long-winded, including the hold. You're holding back here for quite a while. So I guess this is, when we're talking about design principles and history, this is what we can start looking at, how it's going to fire. Am I going to make it shoot like a traditional Japanese hunting bow, or like the Kyudo Yumi? which by the way is normally carbon fiber and bamboo, which are quicker materials than this anyway, so you can make it so it draws longer and at a lower weight, and it will most likely still be quicker than this. As a consideration to hold, see if I'm using this material and I want it to perform arrow-wise, not so much technique-wise, as the bamboo, I may well have to leave the power just a little bit higher, so we're not holding it quite as long past here, because it will still draw past here. It's just going to be a bit punchier, I think. I'm going to have to make it just a little bit heavier. This will come down to Ollie. Well, I'm going to put it to Ollie first, this one. Young chap, Wales archery specialist who put me on to making this thing. He's going to get first dibs on this. So I'll ask him if he's, how he wants to shoot exactly. I think he's got a fairly similar draw to me, so that's a good place to start. And then the next thing I need to know is what arrows are going to be fired out of this. Do you know anything about traditional archery? Your arrow needs to bend, your arrow needs to spine. You can see Ollie set me up with these ones, so we can read the poundage on those. That's that way around, isn't it? Just give me the width of the arrow and the poundage it fires best at. That's the 125 for. But yeah, but these are for remaining stiff while firing out of my center cut bows. I could well work with these. I'm not sure they're going to draw long enough. I might be able to use this with this, depending where the power lies. So when we can talk about, well, firstly, you're going to have to do some research about which arrow you'll be firing out of this bow, because that defines the handle. I mean, we can go narrower, maybe we don't want to, depending on what spine we're using. But whatever we do to the handle, it needs to stay thick so it doesn't break in the middle. It's a consideration for the U design. So yeah, getting it to draw farther isn't going to be much of a problem. We've got lots of material. It can still come away from the wedges and the tips. Another consideration is the balance point. Does the balance point need to be here? Does the balance point need to be here? I know with symmetrical bows, it's a big part of what makes them accurate again and again. There's a consistent balance point in your hand, so it's easier to sort of stop motion from happening. Same with the thicker handles in the design I've made, all about absorbing shock. There's little bits and pieces of being able to use an aluminium arrow, absorbing shock, making the arrow go central. All of it adds up in the pursuit of accuracy, which Kyudo isn't about. Kyudo is about the pursuit of the ritual. Hitting the target is a funny thing. In competition, Kyudo, you get a point for hitting the target. It doesn't matter where on the target you hit. If you hit the target, it's a point. So the accuracy side of it isn't the focus, and it's a funny thing to consider. So it's something I'm going to have to, I guess, feel my way towards, because I don't know how these bows feel. What I do know though is that part of the technique is, like a lot of Asiatic archery, traditional archery, there's a little bit of getting the bow out of the way. You do it differently with the longbow. I think you sort of duck it out the way that way, but we shoot from this side of the hand with the Maruki and the Yumi. I'm not actually sure if that's the case with the Maruki. It definitely is with the Yumi. You fire and you flip the bow out of the way like that. It's just going to tie in with what arrow you use, how the handle feels as well. Do I want sort of a square profile to the handle so it's easy to work on? Twist. Yes, just little things in the final shooting of this thing. It's all illuminated by the history of it, which is all very fascinating. It's ancient in the history of the bow. If you're doing the most primal type of bow, all knowledge is power. Yeah, I guess with this one, I would like it to, like with the other ones, it's a U selfbow, a primal U selfbow, but I want it to try and perform alongside your modern bows, if that means accommodating for modern arrow materials, modern string types. Yeah, that's fine, just fine. I guess my decisions with how this one performs now is where it balances in the middle. I don't know if that, if the angle that you hold it affects that. I imagine it does, doesn't it? Yeah, benefit of this is that now I've got some tiller information. It doesn't fit my tiller tree well. So I'll record some tiller information here, see where it's bending. I think it's bending a little bit more in the middle here, so we can tie that in. We're trying to recurve the tips. So, well, if I'm trying to optimize for speed, I'm going to need to recurve the tips. If it's a Kyudo bow, perhaps it doesn't need that much speed. I don't think we're gonna. It's not a bad principle to recurve your tips anyway, because it helps keep the string on. And speed is good in either application. Yeah, here we are. It's going well. Not a huge amount to go. I think we're going to get it from the tips on the wedges now. You know, make sure we chase a nice taper down both limbs. That's just going to be tricky because of these undulations here. We take these thinner as it naturally goes sturdy at these points. Slow and steady wins the race. Yeah, I need to stop making videos about it and just go ahead and do it now. Thanks very much, everyone. Please like and subscribe. It'll help me build this channel, and I'll keep on doing things like this. I mean, this wasn't even my grade piece of wood for this project. I've got another one. So get this one finished up, and we'll go again. Any other bow designs? I'm happy for suggestions. Content's fun. Alright, thanks again, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.